Your kids getting sick is any parent's biggest nightmare, and doubly so when you're in a foreign city and completely unsure of what to do. Well, I'm here to alleviate that stress and give you some tips and tricks from our travels around Southeast Asia. Let's get into it. I speak to a lot of families who are thinking of traveling or are currently traveling right now. And one of the things that comes up all the time is safety. Safety when they're traveling abroad with their children. And sometimes I feel this fear comes from a fear of the unknown. And a lot of the time it actually comes from the fear caused by the people around them. And let me explain what that means. So before we left on our trip, when we were telling everyone that we were going to go on this big adventure around Southeast Asia with our children, our parents, our friends, our family started telling us all these crazy stories about the one time they were in Bali and got really sick from Bali belly. Or one time they were in Sri Lanka and got pickpocketed. And this put the fear of God into us. We were thinking, oh my God, why are we going on this trip? Our kids are going to be taken and snatched up and we're going to lose our personal belongings to pickpockets. And our personal experience after a solid year of traveling is a lot different to what people have told us. We actually feel the safest we've ever felt in Southeast Asia in particular, way safer than we felt in Australia. So let's talk about some of the risks you're going to experience as a family that's traveling around full time. It doesn't matter if it's through Southeast Asia or Mexico or Antarctica. Traveling as a family has its own inherent risk, and one of those is the fact that you've got two little human beings that don't necessarily know that there's risks around them. But one of the biggest risks you're going to come across is water. You know, we all need water to survive as human beings. You're no exception to that, and the locals are no exception to that. So water safety and water discipline is a very important part of traveling full time. Most of the horror stories of people saying they get sick overseas, things like Bali belly and dysentery and things like that, it comes from water, and not water in the way you think. It's the water you don't necessarily see that makes you the most sick. And what I mean by that is ice. Ice is the biggest culprit of people getting sick in these Southeast Asian countries especially, but all over the world. There's certain countries where this isn't as big an issue. Like if you go to Singapore, you can drink the water straight out of the tap because the water treatment is so amazing there. But then you go to countries like Cambodia, where there's no water treatment at all. It's actually very dangerous to put the tap water anywhere near your mouth, let alone drink it. So this is how we handle water. So we work out the country we're going to and go, okay, we're going to Cambodia, say for instance. It's a given, you're going to drink bottled water. You're probably going to do that anywhere you go just because it's more convenient, to be fair. The other thing we'll do is we'll make sure that we don't drink anything that has ice in it. So if there's a smoothie, we don't drink it unless it's coming from like a 5-star hotel or somewhere you know is going to have filtered water. But if we can't guarantee the source of that ice, we just don't risk it. We also make sure that when we brush our teeth, we only use bottled water. We also make sure not to drink any water when we're washing ourselves. So we wash ourselves with local water. It's kind of stupid to wash yourself with bottled water. You're not some billionaire that can do that. So you got to wash yourself with local water. You're just going to use good discipline. Make sure that you keep your mouth closed when you're washing water. And because you've got your kids with you, you have to teach them to not drink the water that's coming out of the tap. Washing your hands, you got to do it right. Like you wash your hands, you got to make sure you dry them properly and thoroughly before you touch food. So that's something we really had to teach the boys because they were washing their hands and then just like shaking them off and going and eating food. You might as well just put the water on your food at that point. Now, I want to stress this. Locals get sick too with water. So the other thing we make sure we do is that if we go out and about for dinner, say for instance, and we don't see locals eating at all, then we don't eat there. Because like I said, the locals get sick too, and if the food isn't prepared properly, they're going to get sick as well. Now, another thing you're going to come across in developing countries especially is crime, petty crime. I'm not talking about big assaults. Like I said, I felt more safe in Southeast Asia than I did in Australia. I don't wear any rings. I'm married. I've been married for 10 years now. I don't wear my wedding ring. I don't wear a watch. I don't wear a necklace. I don't wear anything that shows wealth. And that's worked really well for us. One of the secrets to not having crimes committed against you is not make yourself a target. And that not only goes for displays of wealth, that goes from how you carry yourself and how you carry your belongings. My wife, she carries a purse everywhere we go. She has it strapped on this side of her body. So when we're walking along the road, she has it away from the road strapped to herself. She makes herself a harder target to get a bag snatch. So you also need to teach your kids this discipline as well. We like to give our boys money when we go out and about. So if we go to a local market, they have their own money to barter with. And we tell the boys, don't just hold the money in your hand. Make sure you put it away so you're not flashing it everywhere because you're just asking for someone to steal that. And if someone steals that from you, don't come running to us if you've just had it flashing around like this. we just try and teach the discipline as a family collective. We try and teach, let's not make ourselves a target for petty crime. As far as serious crime goes, this is the other thing you may come across. We have, unfortunately, and I think it's because of this, we always listen to locals when they talk. We ask, okay, where's the best place to eat? Where's the best place to go and see? Where's the places we should avoid? Locals will not go to places where there's crime. They don't want to get robbed either. So if they tell you to stay away from that area because it's dangerous, then you probably should listen to them. Now, another thing you can mitigate against is political instability. Example is Mindanao. We were in the Philippines for 2 months and we really wanted to visit Mindanao, but the Australian government said you should go there with caution because even the southern Mindanao, you're not allowed to go, but Mindanao in general, be cautious because there's terrorist activity there. Now, one of the ways you can work all this out is every country has a travel advice website that will tell you where you can and can't visit as a citizen of a country. So another thing we like to make sure we do to mitigate risks, obviously, when you're traveling with kids, you hear about abductions and stuff like that. It could even just be as simple as your kid getting lost in a market, right? We have air tags. Now, we have the Samsung equivalent, but like air tags, and effectively what they do is they turn your phone into a tracker for wherever that air tag is. And what we do is we give those air tags to the boys when we're traveling. So if we're going out and about and we know that they could potentially get lost because it's just a busy place, we'll give them an air tag to put in their pocket. And that way, if they ever did get lost, we would be able to find them again. That goes to the absolute worst case scenario too. It makes it a lot easier to find someone if they have an air tag. Take that as you may. So I mentioned a lot of the things you can actively avoid. You can actively avoid a political situation. You can actively avoid water. But what about the things that are very difficult to avoid? Mosquitoes are super scary. I hate mosquitoes. Doesn't matter if they're carrying dengue fever or malaria or not. They are just one of the things that gives me nightmares because they're so difficult to control. They're so difficult to not get you to bite. In certain countries, it's a real risk. If the country's got a high risk of malaria or dengue fever, then you really want to avoid mosquitoes. To the point, what we do in a country that has a high risk of mosquito-borne diseases is we actually go ahead and proactively put deep mosquito repellent on every time we go out. Again, prevention is the best policy. We met another family who just recently got dengue fever and they were hospitalized for a week. Very hard to avoid, but you can do things to mitigate that risk. Same with stray animals. One thing you're going to notice a lot of in developing countries is stray animals, dogs and things like that. When we first landed in Southeast Asia, I was happy to just walk next to dogs and around dogs until I got bitten. Now, I was lucky that I only got bitten on the hand and it didn't break skin, but it was a real wake-up call and went, okay, we don't want to get too close to these dogs because if they get startled, they have a tendency to bite. So what we do when we see dogs now, if we can, we just give them a wide berth. We just go right around and kind of stay out of bite range. And the same goes with traffic. We're in Vietnam at the moment and it's notorious for people just not following road rules. There'll be a red light and someone will just run through it. It can happen in an instant and there's not much you can really do to mitigate it except have good practices. So since we've been driving around a lot, I've been using my mirrors a lot. I've been looking around. I basically just fully concentrate on the road and it's exhausting and I wish I didn't have to do it, but I know for a fact that someone's not going to stop. This also applies to people that are next to the road too. I see a lot of families and tourists and backpackers in general holding their phone, walking next to the road with their phone, their heads just fully engulfed in the phone. That is one of the worst things you can do in these countries where people don't follow the road rules because you expect people to stop and they just don't. So my advice, if you need to get on your phone, do what we do and just move to the side of the road so you're far enough away that you're not in the hit zone of a car and then look at your phone, then put it away. Good practices prevent injuries, prevent risk happening to you. Now, we've been very lucky as a family, touch wood, we haven't really had anything major happen to us, but that doesn't mean we're not prepared for it. So one of the biggest things I see families not doing that they really should is getting good insurance, premium insurance. Now it's going to be $200, $300, $400 a year more for premium insurance. Then you're going to get access to good hospitals. It's just going to be a better experience all around if the worst case scenario happens to you. And it was a real wake up call when our friend got injured and they went through the scenario and learned firsthand why it's important to have a quality insurance company doing it. The risks are there. When you're traveling as a family, there is a heightened level of risk to your safety of you and your family. But that shouldn't stop you from traveling with your family. The risks are far outweighed by the rewards that come from traveling, which is spending more time with your family and developing connections that you just can't get when you're working 9 to 5 and you're not spending the time with your kids. Safety is only one part of the preparation you need to do as a family if you want to have an adventure like ours. But if you're interested in one of the other parts, which is packing for a trip like that, you should really watch this video here where we break down everything we've taken for this adventure. Stay safe, guys, on the road, and thank you so much for watching.